Hey everyone! Are you someone who enjoys great food, live entertainment, enjoy being outdoors, and people watching? Well, then the Minnesota State Fair, or also known as the Great Minnesota Get Together, is the place for you and for your families. According to the New York Post, the Minnesota State Fair is one of the top 7 state fairs and the second largest held in the country, which showcases Minnesota's finest talent in agriculture, arts, industry, and entertainment. I've been going to the Minnesota State Fair every year since I've been a little kid, going multiple times every year to experience what this great event has to offer. I've attended many concerts and have had family members who have even worked at some of the booths at the fair. Now, I'm going to share with you the history, the food, the entertainment, and everything that Minnesota State Fair has to offer to those who attend and join in on the festivities. First, let's talk about the history of the Minnesota State Fair. The first Minnesota State Fair took place back in 1859, where it was held in Minneapolis. The fair was actually held in the early days in different locations every year. Cities like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Red Wing, Winona, and Owatonna were the cities where they switched off with. It wasn't until 1885 they decided to keep its location permanently in St. Paul, where it's currently held now on 320 acres of land. According to Newscastic, the fair has been held every year an exception to 5 times throughout its history due to either war or polio. In 1861 and 1862, it was because of the Civil War and the Dakota Indian conflict. In 1893, because of the conflicts with the World Columbian Exposition in Chicago. In 1945, due to the wartime fuel shortages. And in 1946, due to the polio epidemic. That's right, a polio outbreak. Last year's attendance at the fair held of 1,824,830 people was the largest ever recorded in the history of the fair's existence, according to the Minnesota State Fair's website. MinnPost also credits the fair with some very historical events, such as Theodore Roosevelt's famously delivered line, "Speak softly and carry a big stick," during a fair speech in 1901. Also, legendary racehorse Dan Patch set a pacing record for the mile track at the State Fair back in 1906. While the Minnesota State Fair has a rich history, it is also known for their legendary food on a stick. The food vendors at the Minnesota State Fair always seem to outdo themselves every year. There are, as of last year, 2014, 93 items on a stick, including alligator, spaghetti and meatballs, the legendary Pronto Puffs, which they estimate has 500,000 consumed every year, mac and cheese, and my personal favorite, deep fried Snickers bars. All of these on a stick. There's also an all-you-can-drink milk stand that goes through 25 gallons of milk every year. That's insane. According to the Star Tribune, there are over 500 food choices sold at over 300 different food vendors throughout the fair. You can find every kind of food from deep fried, battered, frozen, and of course on a stick. The USA Today states that last year's Minnesota State Fair grossed $300 million on food alone in 2015. That is a lot of greasy food on a stick. It's also estimated that with all the greasy food that the fair goes and take, the fair goes through 22,000 rolls of toilet paper every year. That's gross, people. Now, make sure before you attend these events, you don't eat anything so you can enjoy your food that you consume. With all the food you consume, you can walk off all those calories you eat by visiting the fun entertainment throughout the fairgrounds. You can never go bored with all the entertainment and exhibits you can visit all across the fair. And according to the Minnesota State Fair website, one of the biggest attractions for families is the CHS Miracle of Birth Center, where nearly 200 calves, lambs, piglets, ducks, chicks, and bunnies are born on site for spectators to watch. This is part of the whole agriculture experience, with many different animals representing and all shown off with their respective classes. Music, dance, and art are big attractions at the fair. Each year there's a talent contest with local talent that is free to the public. There are also many stages throughout the fairgrounds that host musicians, comics, dancers, and performers, which are free for your viewing pleasure. The Minnesota State Fair Grandstand holds concerts every night, with acts in country, rock, metal, classical, R&B, hip-hop, and jazz. The country band of Alabama actually has performed there at the fair 18 times, which is a record at the fair. Each concert, of course, ends with a nightly fireworks show for everyone to watch. There, of course, are also baking, art, and craft exhibits and contests throughout the fairgrounds that show off some of the best talent that Minnesota has to offer. This includes the famous butter sculptures, where celebrities and the current Princess of the Milky Way are honored with a 90-pound butter sculpture. Gross. Go look at it. It's actually pretty interesting. The Mighty Midway and the Kidway is filled with rides and games for the young and the old to partake in, that is open daily and they can enjoy for their pleasures. Now, with all the history, the food, and the entertainment, what more can anyone ask for a state fair? The Minnesota State Fair has so much to offer, not only for the community and for the state of Minnesota, but for anyone looking for a great time. Travelers all across the world come to experience what is called the Great Minnesota Get-Together. Plan on a full day of adventure and fun where you can make your way to the Minnesota State Fair. Experience all the food, entertainment, and make history with your next visit to one of the greatest fairs in the country. Be ready with an empty stomach for the great food, lots of energy for all the walking and entertainment you take in, and be ready with an open mind to try and experience new things the fair has to offer for its visitors. I hope to see you at the next Minnesota State Fair, which is held this year, August 27th through September 7th. See you later, and thanks for enjoying everything about the Great Minnesota Get-Together.